Mhm.
Hello, people of the world. I guess we're live now.
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm here with Kimonas and Manos. Okay, I wanted to change slide. Here it is. Here we are. I'm Stefano. I'm from Italy. I'm a product manager here at Canonical, working with the MLOps team, and then let my friends here present themselves.
Mano, the honor
Yeah,
is
yeah, I can
yours.
go next. Hello, everyone. I'm Manos Vlassis. I'm a software engineer at Canonical. I also had the privilege of working with the release team upstream for Kubeflow 1.10, so that was exciting as well.
And my name is Kimonas. I've also been a long contributor of Kubeflow. Although lately I'm focusing a little bit more on the Charm Kubeflow side, and I'm the tech lead of the team. And it was a pleasure also for yet another release, see all of the nice progress, work with Manos from our side, work with upstream. Yeah, but we're gonna cover all of that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So now that you know who we are, we're here to just discuss a little bit about Kubeflow, what it is, something about the new release, and a few details also about our distribution. It will be a friendly chat, and feel free to add comments wherever you are on LinkedIn or YouTube, and we'll either answer at the end of the session or in comments afterwards. All right. So we wanted to give you a brief introduction to Kubeflow in case you're new to the project or know little about it. We'll keep it brief because I know there might be also some more experienced practitioners out there. So Kubeflow is a project that was started by Google back in 2017. It was open sourced and led by Google. The whole premise of the project was to build a Kubernetes native machine learning toolkit to simplify AI ML operations on Kubernetes. And since then, the community experienced a lot of growth, a lot of changes. It's very much different than it used to be in the early days. Now it's being donated to CNCF. So it's not led by one single organization, but it's a true community project. It's growing a lot in popularity and adoption, and it hosts a wide range of components. I wanted to share this slide, although I think uh, it doesn't even include all of the components, right, guys? We're missing a couple ones at least that we'll talk about later. I like this slide because it shows the breadth of the project. It's really not just one application or one web UI. It's a combination of components and tools that interoperate together. It's a whole stack. Covers the entire machine learning lifecycle, and I think that's what's nice about the project.
And actually, I like how they try, because it's something for new contributors. Also, it can be daunting to try to figure out the wider scope and line and borders of Kubeflow. And for me, it really helped. And I think it's also document in the main documentation page that Kubeflow doesn't aim at creating new tools for doing the thing. Although we have some really nice and revolutionary efforts, like as we'll talk later, the model registry, but it really aims at taking existing technologies and bundling up for creating a platform. So for a lot of those technologies, yes, there are huge things, but it's not like Kubeflow's unique thing of let us create PyTorch. Like no, all of those are things that already exist, and Kubeflow provides a way to deploy them as a uniform platform.
Right. Although a lot of the orchestration required to take those pieces and make them run seamlessly, it's quite unique. Like
Yeah.
what's happening with the training operator or
Mm.
Katib for hyperparameter tuning. Like all of those pieces are unique to Kubeflow, and although the libraries themselves, for example, to compute the hyperparameters are coming from somewhere else, but then there's a whole layer, big layer of interoperation between Kubernetes and that higher level stack. So a few community news. And I wanted to cover this as well because I feel like the community is uh, growing like crazy. Lots of things are changing, and although it feels like 6 months ago, since 6 months ago, lots of things changed, and it feels like a lot of time. So just wanted to mention a few of those. For one, the community completed the checklist of the CNCF onboarding as a graduated project, which is pretty important for the adoption in general. The process and the journey to enter into CNCF, which establishes definitely Kubeflow as a well-rounded and mature project. And it allows us as a community to really leverage from one, the expertise from CNCF, the larger ecosystem, being truly part of this bigger family. And I'm sure that will allow us both to get more adoption as a community, but also in terms of technical integration with the broader ecosystem to really put that into gears. Something else I want to mention as well is the new elections of the steering committee. Since I think 1 year ago, the community established formally the steering committee, a number of people who are overseeing the direction of the project. It's 5 of them, and then every I don't remember if it's 1 year or 2 years, there are new elections to kind of refresh 2 people in the cohort. So it was great seeing the whole process happening, and we've got 2 new members, Julius and Francisco. So good luck to them, and they're already doing great work. Guys, do you want to cover a little bit some of these other items?
One of the interesting one that I'm always super keen on is also I always love the Google Summer of Code one. I had also used to be a mentor back in the day, also for like a TensorBoard effort, and more like a guest appearance in the previous GSOC. But I'm also very keen to see what we're gonna have this time. I'll also try and would like to if we get someone selected, also have a project that have proposed and will potentially be a mentor for the ambient mesh. We're gonna talk a little bit about that as well. But that's always for me a really, really, really nice way for getting contributions, getting new people to get involved. So if you're also listening, there are gonna be proposals coming in. So stay hooked, because there are gonna be some nice projects coming on.
Actually, I think the proposal phase on the student side opened up 2 days ago or yesterday. I don't remember if it was yesterday or 2 days ago. So it's open to everyone to evaluate. So check it out. There's quite a list of projects there. Okay, so let's do it quickly because we don't want to keep you all here too long. I just wanted to mention 2 very nice projects, including the support for Helm, which has been a long time coming. The community has been asking for it for long. So go check it out if you're interested and know more about it, as well as the proposal to donate fees to the Kubeflow community. That's something that Francisco, the new steering committee member, proposed and is leading. So again, that's super, super interesting. Go check it out.
It's actually quite fun how, I mean, at least from our side, we had our eyes in Feast, and we're even as we speak having plans and planned effort to actually integrate Feast, and we're starting even within like the next months to start working on that. How then it actually came part of the Kubeflow project, and we're like, oh, okay, so we were in the right direction. We would have to do it either way, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a bit about the Kubeflow 1.10 news. Kubeflow 1.10 will be released in a couple of weeks. So we want to cover what's coming, what you can be excited about. There's quite a lot of things. Who wants to get started here?
I've taken a good look and know about pipelines and security. But actually, to be honest, I'm really interested. I would like to know if someone would know something. There's so much thing from what I saw from Kubeflow Trainer going on. So have anybody of you actually looked into that and knows what's going on?
I was actually looking at it this week. The first thing is that there's actually been a rebranding because Kubeflow Trainer was previously named Training Operator. So with this rebranding, it's actually a major update. And the first thing that the team wanted to do is try to create to facilitate the process of model training. So the new CRDs were introduced to make to kind of abstract the complexities that Kubernetes adds while trying to train models. And additionally, they update the Python SDK to reflect these changes. And I also saw a very interesting change in creating a custom model initializer, and this is supposed to reduce the offload for GPUs by offloading this part of the model training to the CPU. I haven't played with this, but this seems like very interesting. And for people that use JAX, the JAX library, there's also been a new CRD called JAXO, and this makes it very easy to train models.
Really?
Interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
It's a major update, and it's, as you guys said before, that because Kubeflow is a collection of components, in parallel, there's so many updates going on. So and I think even these 6 items we're talking about, it's only part of the whole project.
And I think there was a lot of focus on the LLM fine-tuning aspect of this new V2 API, right? I remember last time one of the biggest focuses was on Khatib and a couple new APIs targeting LLM fine-tuning, and now it seems like they're aligning work across Khatib and Kubeflow training, the Kubeflow trainer, to provide a similar set of APIs that can work together. Yeah, super interesting.
So actually, then let me tell you, okay, I need to pay back Manos for giving us something interesting. To me, I always keep an eye on KFP, and especially after we've come to V2, Google has given up a lot of, and we see now new contributors having ownership and being able to drive commits and efforts in KFP. I really, really like how the majority of they've done some smaller things like being able to dynamically select what resources a component should have, whether it is how many GPUs, how many CPUs, which is an interesting one, so you can dynamically select how much load you want to have when you're creating your tasks. But I'm super excited because in this cycle, the Kubeflow pipeline has a concept of parallel for, which essentially when you're creating your pipeline, you say, hey, here's a component that I want, please spread it out and run them all. So an example of this, you can do a parallel for, and a component is for training a model. And you can say, okay, try to train it with this number of epochs, and your for loop is like a list of different values of epochs, and you go. But this has the parallel for and the mechanics around it for fanning out and fanning out one task to multiple and fanning them into one has a lot of issues in KFP v2. And this is actually something we've heard from customers like, hey, there are some intricacies there and some like difficulties and bumps. One of the main efforts that they did in this cycle for in this release for KFP for parallel for is that while for V2, for V1 things are okay, but for V2, even though you could have a loop, a parallel for, you could not define how many tasks you want to run in parallel. So yes, you could define like 10 values and a task will be created, but it's sequential, one and then the other and then the other. So now you can define, no, have a parallelism of 3, so you can have 3 of those running in parallel. And by being also able to configure the resources, you can dynamically do things, which is super, super fun. And the good thing is that even on the next releases, they start doing more things and fixing this parallel for KFP for V2 with being able to fan in the results and aggregate all of the results in the DSL, etc. So it's really, really nice to see that for V2. And this was one of the, like, if you check the issues in KFP and sort them by likes, these are one of the main ones. And it's really, really nice to see that those are being fixed.
Right. And we definitely heard from customers who were not keen in upgrading exactly because of this gap, right? So it's been a long time coming, but very welcome indeed. So congrats to the KFP folks.
Another thing that I think people have been asking from Kubeflow is the model registrar. I'm not sure if you have more things to say about it.
Yeah, I love that initiative. And I have to say, thanks to Red Hat, because those guys have been really driving this effort from the design phase, couple of releases ago, and until now, with the introduction of a brand new UI. Roughly speaking, if you're not familiar with the model registry, you can think of it as a component that helps you storing model metadata and tracking the lineage of that metadata and model metrics and how the model was created, if what kind of version it is, if it is being promoted to production or not. It's in general, it's a key component to really make your MLOps platform production ready and being able to iterate on models easily. So the last release, the model registry was released in a beta or preview version with, I think, an API and a CLI only. So you could interact with it. I think it also had a Python SDK as well, which was iterated in the last version. So it was mostly a backend scripted experience, but now it also hosts a full-blown UI. And it's nice to see how the team is constantly, relentlessly improving on what they offer with the model registry. So super exciting.
And it was
yeah, go ahead.
It was super needed component as well, in the sense that while we still had like Kubeflow pipelines relied on MLMD and had these artifacts
exactly
for showing you, it did not have the best UX. And of course, there are always considerations like multi-user isolation and all of that. And the fact that for this model registry, this is also a first-class citizen of how to have isolation really fits into the Kubeflow's mentality and architecture of being a platform on top of Kubernetes and providing isolations to users and teams. So really, really nice.
And talking about new components, also Spark is a new member of the family.
All right.
Yeah, has anyone looked into it?
I was looking actually into it. Basically, Spark is, for some small context, it's a data analytics engine, and I think it's very popular in general. The issue is that the way that you create and you manage workflows in Spark, it's kind of different than the way you do it in Kubernetes. So there is a project called Spark Operator, and basically tries to use the idiomatic way of Kubernetes in order to define jobs and use them. So the Spark Operator, it's been for a long time, but now there's been a major update, and it's in such a good state that now it's considered a core component, which is excellent. And I also saw that it has the common things that Kubernetes brings with it: metrics collection. You can automatically restart any jobs or applications, and it tries to make automatic the process of submission for you. Calling Spark submit when you want to submit a job, and I think it's one of the major aspects, and it's going to be hugely useful. Small note is that I don't think it is installed by default in 1.10, but I think it will definitely be included by default in the next iteration.
Right. It's great to see how the ecosystem is growing, and so many projects are trying to enter the Kubeflow umbrella. We'll see where we'll be in 5 years from now. We'll have so much more boxes here.
But before we go, I have to talk a little bit about security. I mean, that's something that I always keep on, because I'm still a little bit involved in the upstream Kubeflow manifest that also have a lot of the work around security. It's really nice to see that there's still efforts being pushed around making Kubeflow more secure. In this cycle, there's a good focus on having more and more rootless containers, and there's always the discussion going on for the pod security policies. But more concretely, and what it means is that to not have to, by pod security standards, a way to define that, hey, in my namespace, I don't want privileged pods to be deployed, and you have different levels of what privileged means. And the goal, but in order to be able to do, and Kubeflow will provide with the default way to deploy some same values. The catch there, though, is that the main problem with pod security standards always is that The main problem that right now is blocking us is the current Istio model of having sidecar. Excuse me.
Don't die.
Is that sidecar security is going to take me down? Is that sidecars always require privileges? So as long as we have the regular Istio sidecar model, we cannot have spot security standards. That's why this effort is more and more focused on the Istio CNI, which is a well-supported version of Istio. And in the future, let's see how it will go with ambient mesh as well. So yeah, it's nice to see that this still is getting push on that, so that the security of Kubeflow is always being more doubled down on.
No, that's very good. That's very good. So before we move on, I just wanted to close this mentioning a few new features from Kserve, since I mentioned the model registry. I really like the topic of, in general, handling model metadata and then inferencing and the whole life cycle of models in production. So I'm always looking very closely also at the news from Kserve, which it's not officially, let's say, part of the Kubeflow community, but they used to be, and as the two communities are very, very close, and we consider Kserve just as an extension of Kubeflow. So what they introduced in the new version, the version 0.14, which I think it's the one bundled with Kubeflow 1.10. So they introduced nice new APIs that you can use from Python to basically have an asynchronous interaction with the Kserve backend. And I think that will be pretty helpful to build interactive applications that consume the Kserve endpoints instead of having a synchronous API that might be difficult to handle. I think this will really unlock quite a few scenarios for Kserve to be used in production as a backend. And then I wanted to mention a couple things that are related to, in general, the new Gen AI wave of very, very big models like LLMs. It tends to be difficult to load them either in memory or in the local storage on time when you deploy a model, because maybe they're huge. You need to download them from a repository. So Kserve is introducing the notion of a model cache. And I think they did a few iterations on the naming. I think they're calling it local model cache now. And it's a mechanism to pre-poll a model locally, so it can be readily be used as soon as you deploy the inference engine and start immediately with the model. So it's a nice way to consume very, very large models. And there are quite a few improvements also on how you can handle models packaged as containers. So, OCI containers that are just packaging a model. So you can have a model registry, let's say, that's in terms of containers, like a container registry that acts as a model registry. And now it's the interaction with containers that support that bundle models inside. It moved from the experimental phase to a full-fledged GA feature. So that's very good as well. All right. So I would say let's talk a little bit about Charm Kubeflow, because that's what we do at Canonical. Kimonas, I'll put you on the spot. How would you summarize what we do with Charm Kubeflow on top of upstream Kubeflow, just for those folks who don't really know what we're doing at Canonical?
So before I get into that, because I just took a look at some, there are people commenting. Really, thank you for all the comments and the love, guys. Many highs from Greece and Italy. So for Charm Kubeflow, for those that don't know, we really focus on Canonical's main goal is to make it seamless and having a unified way for deploying applications and operating and managing them on Kubernetes. The way we do it is via Juju, and the main work that we're doing at Canonical is how to bundle an application with the logic to operate the application, configure it, do things with it, and deploy it. So that's what a charm essentially is, a bundle of both the application and the logic to operate it. For example, you can imagine of a MySQL database where you include both the container image and the binaries, and also logic on top for making backup and restore. Same thing can be done. We have a lot of charms for all of the different microservices of Kubeflow, for the persistence agent of Kubeflow pipelines that decide to delete a successful pipeline after 24 hours, all the way to a notebooks controller. So that's overall the goal, what charm Kubeflow is, and our mission is to always be able to essentially deploy Kubeflow, and by focusing the configuration options that an admin and end user will need, without having to care too much about all of the plethora of options, and the integrations now between the different components and charms can handle all of the low-level details. Like, okay, I want an S3 from AWS, here, deploy this and connect this to KFP, and now, boom, so I'll have a different S3 going on. So that's our mission, and that's why we're now also updating our efforts. We're keeping our operators in sync with the upstream efforts, and as we're going to see here, we're also trying to do extra things with those to meet the common user needs by having them bundled and baked into the operators themselves.
And we should mention that all of our operational tooling, Juju, the charms, it's all open source, right? And you can try it out. I mean, you can just hop into our Charm Hub and deploy the whole thing by yourself. And I think it's a true, it's a big value proposition for anyone who really wants to see this working with their own hands. Yeah. So, okay, maybe we could go through a little bit some of the highlights that we included in this new release. Very, very big feature and long time request to simplify the management of profiles. Want to talk more about it?
Yeah, well, we'll definitely talk more about it next week. To plug our talk, me and Kimonas will present this actual project, it's Profile Automator's Charm, next week on KubeCon. I think it's the 1st of April. But yeah, definitely we can talk about basically what it does. I think it tries to solve one of the main issues that cluster administrators face, which is trying to keep up to date with all profiles that exist on a cluster. Usually the way you do it is you just try to apply the manifest that contain all these files. But if you are a large team, you usually try to keep all the profiles on a source of truth, usually with your OIDC provider. And what we tried to do was try to automate this process and try to do it in using the declarative way that Kubernetes always prefers. And we started by first defining a library that tries to automate the process of updating all the Kubernetes resources that are needed for each profile. And after that, we try to apply this using an actual source of truth. The first charm that we created was the GitHub Profiles Automator charm, which tries to sync all the profiles on a cluster based on a source of truth on a GitHub repository. The good thing is that we try to make the code, at least we tried, as reusable as possible. And we're also planning to write more charms that uses different OIDC providers. I think the next one we're planning to write is an Entra ID charm, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which I think is very exciting. But yeah, we'll also talk about it next week.
I think it's the point is that it's a very extensible approach, right? And we'll be able to integrate with various identity providers that need. And kudos to you guys and the rest of the engineering team for that, because I think we've got a very flexible solution there.
Thanks.
All right. What's next? Kimonas, do you want to speak more about some other features?
Oh, for sure. The increased security is one of Canonical's main goals, and at least for here, the main focus that we have is to double down a lot on fixing CVEs. And Canonical is invested a lot as being a software vendor on how to be able to do it at scale. And because this is an effort of Canonical not only for Kubeflow, and we're having the machinery for doing it almost for every open source project, and Kubeflow being one of them. Canonical has its own way and tooling for building container images, which we're calling rocks. And we've seen that for now, from what I remember, we've at least reduced the CVs by half, at least from what we have upstream. And now we're actually building up and almost there with the machinery to actually have a uniform way for tackling all of the kinds of CVs and how we can approach them and respond to them. So we're actually rebuilding from the sources and all of the packages from all of the sources for all of our container images, and also based on the latest Ubuntu version that we support and with the security obligations that Canonical has behind those. So we're really doubling down at this point, have almost all 90 something images of Kubeflow converted into our rocks, which we're catering and having extra maintenance and tracking their CVs on.
Right. I think it was a monumental work that spanned quite a few months, if not years of work to get here. And I think we're at the point where we're covering almost the entire list of containers from upstream and really being able to maintain them with our Ubuntu base and our rocks technology, which at the end of the day is just OCI images in containers, but in a way that we can handle and have a better handle on the CI/CD and the CVEs, as you said. So I think that's I'm pretty happy to see that we're in this state and we can really secure the whole stack end to end. And I know we also have quite some good news on the monitoring side.
Yeah, well, on monitoring, we had started working on this from the previous release of Kubeflow, but on this iteration, I think we've pretty much enabled metrics for, I think it is almost every charm, which is great, and users can deploy Grafana and try to display, get any information they want. And with this, we've also added a lot more alert rules, and this way the end user can be notified when something affects the deployment, like when services are down, when there's high traffic. And one thing I do like about the whole Canonical stuff of development is that its tools are created in order to work together, and I was very pleasantly surprised when I saw that Kubeflow can now be easily deployed with integrated with another one of our toolings, which is the Canonical observability stack. And I think it's so easy to integrate this stuff and and integrate these tools together. And I think this shows one of the good things about the tooling that we're using.
Yeah, exactly. Although the disclaimer is that observability is always an art for knowing what are the things, the failure modes, what you need to expose, how someone can know when something is wrong in the cluster, where to look. But it's really nice that at Canonical we have also a team dedicated to observability and look across all of the teams, and always we're being in sync and to keep on improving this. So yeah, observability is always going to be a never-ending problem, but we'll always keep on improving on every product.
Yeah, like security. Yeah, it never stops. Yeah.
And speaking of, we also have done some good effort on our Istio story. Main one, although we having high availability and also availability on multiple availability zones, is a huge topic of its own. Initially, we've limited it into the ingress part of Istio because we had seen in some cases that, like, if one node would go down that would contain the single ingress, everything could go down. And the thing is that even if you have 3 pods backing the ingress, if all of them end up in the same node and that node goes down, you still have a problem. So at least for now, we've solved this problem by making sure that all of the pods will be going into different nodes, and you could even set it up to go into multiple, depending on where the nodes are, availability zones, so that Istio can be now way more resilient. And actually, Istio is one of the main efforts we're going to be having in the future, because Canonical will have a new team that is fully focusing on Istio ambient mesh, and we really want to be doubling down and start consuming and using ambient mesh from Kubeflow. So that's why we're also going to be way more involved now and see the rough edges and try to also help with upstream to have a better integration and be able to utilize ambient mesh Istio and not only the Istio CNI one.
yeah, that will be a huge effort and cross-team collaboration, and I hope it will bring a lot of benefits to the Kubeflow community as well as we integrate with this. And I think that's it. There are lots more improvements and fixes to our Charm Kubeflow 1.10. We don't want to bore you for a whole hour on all of those. You can also go check out our release notes on Discord, and we'll be releasing the full GA version right after KubeCon, so stay tuned for that. So that's about it. I think it's been fun being here and talking about upstream Kubeflow. You can go to Charm Hub and try it out already in the 1.10 beta channel. And you can also find us on Matrix. We are in the MLOps channel and constantly monitoring that. So if you want to discuss with us or with the rest of the team, we're all there and happy to chat and answer any questions. As Manos said, we'll all be at KubeCon next week. Kimonas and Manos will have a session on the Profile Automator Charm. We'll be at the Kubeflow Summit. If any one of you is there, let's get together. And if not, let's meet online.
Mm-hmm. Cheers, folks. Thanks for
Cheers.
chatting.
Thank you, everyone.